Kingdom. Karibuni sana katika Swahili Kingdom. If you are new, if you have been watching my Swahili Kingdom videos, welcome, welcome, welcome. And today we are going to talk about what you can learn as a beginner in Swahili. Like, I mean, if I were to start learning a language, because I have learned several languages, apart from speaking English and Swahili, I can speak Filipino, I can speak Italian, I can speak Spanish. Okay, so if I were to start learning a new language, what would I focus on? So that is what I'm going to tell you today, but I'm going to tell you in terms of Swahili. What can you focus on in Swahili? Because apart from learning languages, I also teach languages. I have been teaching languages for the past few years, and I have had beginner students, I have had advanced students, I have written books in Swahili, not books for grammar but story books in Swahili that can help you while you are learning language. We are going to talk about that later in the video. Okay, so apart from having experience in teaching, I also have experience in learning. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, if you are to start learning Swahili, where are you supposed to start from? What are you supposed to do? Okay, I'm going to tell you everything, and I'm going to tell you what we are going to offer here at Swahili Kingdom for you the whole year, so that you can find yourself improving. Have you ever felt like you are learning a language but you feel stagnant? You feel you are doing the same thing every day and you are not getting anything? Like, the vocabulary, you are not getting the vocabulary. Maybe you read or you memorize a vocabulary. Do you know this method called the parrot method, where they say that you go look for a word, maybe flashcards or something, you look for a word, then you memorize it, then you come back to it later and see if you remember it. Okay, that's one of the old methods that was there before, but there is a new method that you can use for learning vocabulary. Okay, learning a language, just acquiring. Of course, you need to learn and acquire. You need both methods for you to get something better. Okay, just acquiring won't be that nice, but we are going to talk about it today. So if I were to start learning a language, since I have taught Swahili students, I am not a Swahili student, I am a native Swahili. I am from Kenya. I am from Kenya. I have been to Mombasa, I have been to Nairobi now. Okay, so I am a Swahili native speaker, I'm not a student, but I have learned other languages. I have learned Spanish, Italian, those languages, and I have taught students Swahili. So I understand some of the things that a student should focus on. So let's say you want to start Swahili. What should you do? First of all, part one, the things that you need to focus on are the four main things in language. Four main things in language, and we are going to talk about them one by one. And at the end of this lesson, or of this lecture that I'm giving you, at the end of it, you are going to have a story in Swahili. What I usually do in my videos for students to connect what they have heard, like what they have heard in the grammar lesson with the story, and see if they can understand something. So we are going to have a little story. We are going to summarize what we have talked about, but in Swahili. So see how Swahili sounds, okay? And if you have been learning Swahili, you can see if you are understanding something. So what are the four parts of a language? What are the four parts of a language? We have reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And what I can tell you is that all of those things are important. Don't focus on one thing and leave the other, or focus on all of them at once. They are going to give you a headache. But you need to do all of them. Okay, you need to do some today, some the other day, some. You need to focus on all of them. Okay, let's start with reading. Many people ask me, because when I tell them I have learned languages through reading, because for me I start with reading. Many people ask me, how do you start a language with reading? For instance, with Spanish, you go and take a Spanish storybook. I don't read textbooks. like grammar textbook. So for instance, you go and take a Spanish storybook. I go and take a Spanish storybook and start reading. So someone was asking me, how do you just go and take a book of a language you have never heard or a language you have never seen? Maybe you saw it once in a while, and maybe the time that you saw it, you didn't care. How do you take a book just like that and start reading? And my answer was, I just take a book and I start reading. But people don't believe it, because they say, if you do that, you're not going to understand anything, blah, blah, blah. Of course, that is one of the things. You are not going to understand anything. You are not going to understand anything. And as you go on, you are not going to understand everything. That's the thing. Let me repeat again. At the beginning, you are not going to understand anything. And as you go on, you are not going to understand everything. Okay? So you can take, the best way that I usually say is to get a book according to your level. For example, since I'm a beginner, I go to, I have Ollie Richards' book. I love Ollie Richards' storybooks. They are very nice. He writes storybooks according to the level. So I just go and take a beginner Ollie Richards book, storybook I mean, and then I read. There was this time I was reading, I didn't understand anything, but I got some words. Like, there are some simple words that you can get. For example, I got words like the simple preposition, the Spanish and, the Spanish if, the Spanish as, the Spanish why. Okay, so that's where you get those small things first, and then I usually write them down. So at the beginning, you need to read as you write something down, okay, for you to bring your mind into the language. Okay, read as you write. Of course, at the beginning it's a struggle, but as you continue, maybe after 3 months, you're going to see that it's going to be a lot more easier. Okay, so reading, I recommend reading storybooks, because storybooks, especially when you buy a storybook from someone who has written a storybook for language learners, storybooks, like for instance, if you are a beginner and you buy a beginner book, it will be very easy for you, because that person has written that language, like it is an easy language. It has words that beginners should acquire, or words that beginners should know. Let's say if you're not reading a storybook, you just go online and get a book and you're starting. That is going to kill your motivation. Why? Because you're going to get a book that natives are reading, and when you see it, like, you don't understand anything. For example, let's say there is someone who speaks Spanish and they want to learn English. Then they go and buy a book, The Habits. Do you know the book called Habits? How to Form Habits. Then they go to and buy a book, How to Form Habits. And then when they go and start reading, they don't understand anything. That's where students usually say, I don't like reading. Reading is boring, because when I read, I don't understand anything. The thing is, you need to read starting with the beginner things. Okay, start with the beginner. Choose small things. There was this thing that one of my favorite polyglots said. I don't remember who it was. He said you cannot give a physics book to a toddler. Why? The toddler started learning with small storybooks, small books, and she or he continued, and then after maybe they are around, maybe when they are around 18 years, they are 16 years, you can give them a physics book. But when they are still young, you cannot, when they are still toddlers, you cannot give them a physics book. They won't understand anything. It's the same thing with languages. You need to start small. Okay, apart from books, if you can't buy a book or a storybook, I recommend reading posts from your favorite, maybe the person you are following on social media. Okay, just read posts, and it will be very nice if that person is teaching that language. Why? Because if you read from just any native, like anyone who is posting in Swahili, you can lose motivation, because those people just, the language that is being taught at first, it is a bit easier than the language that natives usually speak. As you climb the ladder is when you can start understanding those hard stuffs that natives speak. But this native person that is posting, of course, will not be posting with this language that you need to start with in learning. Okay, so you can start checking the native posts when you are, maybe you are above the beginner, absolute beginner, and the upper beginner. Maybe when you are at the lower intermediate there, and start looking at those things and see how they are. But when you are not yet there, start seeing things from someone who is teaching that language. For instance, those questions that they are giving, a summary that they see those posts. Okay, that is another good way of reading if you don't have a book. Okay, after reading we have listening. Listening is the second way of like training your ears to listen to a new language. So the first thing that I've written here on listening, the book that you have bought, make sure that that book has an audio book, so that as you read, you can listen to what you have read. Listen to what you have read. Or you can listen as you read. I usually tell my students, you can listen as you read, or you can read then listen later, or you can listen and then read. Of course, when you start listening, you're not going to understand anything. That's how it is. You are not going to understand anything. But it is good if you continue listening and listening and listening, because you're going to start hearing some words. You're going to start understanding. Another thing with listening, you can watch news in Swahili. We are talking about Swahili. You can watch news in Swahili. For example, just go on YouTube and search News Swahili, or the CCN, the BBC Swahili. You can go and watch the news. Though I usually don't recommend news most of the time, because in news they use the pure Swahili, what we call Kiswahili Sanifu, which people don't use most of the times, but it will be good for you, for your ears, to get the training in Swahili. Another way I usually recommend is listen to someone who is teaching Swahili in Swahili. Listen to someone who is teaching Swahili in Swahili. I've used this method in learning Italian, and it is nice. Okay, I've used this method because when learning Italian, when I was learning, as I'm still learning Italian, of course, I'm not yet, my fluency is not that good in Italian. So in Italian, I actually listen to, what is her name? I'm forgetting her name. I usually listen to this lady called Marta. Her channel is called Passione Italiana. So she usually teaches in Italian, and I usually, like, when you listen to the teachings in Italian, you can get some stuff from there, and you will be training your ears. So sometimes if I don't understand what she taught, I usually go back and search. Maybe if she was teaching about verbi regolari, I will go and search that, but I search English. Then I get a video that is in English. I listen to it. After that, now I go to her video, because I have the English content. I'll understand the Italian content. So that is what I do. Okay, and it is very helpful, because right now I can listen to Italian and I can understand Italian. Another thing is called shadowing in language. Shadowing, I have a video on shadowing in this channel if you want to see more. But shadowing is when you imitate what the other person is doing, a native. For example, if a native is speaking, so you imitate what they are. Imitate by saying what they are saying and following their facial expressions, their intonation, okay? Follow the intonation, their facial expression, and what they are saying. Of course, you are not going to be exact, because you are not that person, but you will be training your brain, you will be training your face, your ears on how to speak, how to get in tune with that language, okay? That's called shadowing. Okay? And then we have, you can still listen to news and repeat what the news anchor is saying. You can also, if you have advanced in your level, you can listen to videos. Okay? Listen to videos in Swahili and imitate. Then the last thing is writing. Writing. So, actually writing is not that easy. But how can you make writing easy? You can make writing easy by forming a routine. I have formed a routine of writing a diary. Before I didn't write a diary before. I was not writing diaries before. But since I started learning languages and I knew that writing was a secret weapon for language learning, because your hand is connected to your brain. Okay? So when you write, like, you can acquire a lot of things that you didn't know, and that's when you know, oh, I need to know this word, I don't know how to say this naturally. When you are writing, that's when you know. So I made writing a habit by writing a diary, or I journal every day. So every morning I write something. So since I have like 4 languages, each language has a day on its own. So if you are doing Swahili at the moment, that will be very great. So you can start a diary. You can even start with, I usually use a mathematics book. I usually use a math book. So you see, I usually use a math book. So you can take a math book and you can even write 2 lines, 3 lines at first, and then increase as you continue. Right now I'm only writing half a page because I want it to be small, precise, and just capture a summary of the things that I have done. So you can start writing. Why is writing very, very good? Because writing can keep up your momentum. Like how? For instance, for the whole month of December, I have not been learning any language. Like, sometimes I've been listening, but I've not been active. But I've been writing. And writing has been telling me that you still remember this language. I can still hear the language. For instance, Italian. My Italian is a bit low. It's a bit low. But I write Italian like 4 times a week. Is it 3 or I think 3 times a week. So I usually write Italian, and I can remind myself as I write, I can remind myself, oh, this verb is written like this. I know even how to conjugate the future tense even though I'm not learning at the moment. So writing keeps your momentum, keeps you in that language. Like, you are not going to forget, like, when you are just seated. For instance, there's sometimes that I just feel tired. I don't want to learn anything, because there are some people who asked me. There's sometimes when I'm learning languages and I feel like I want to relax. I feel like I'm tired, I'm not moving forward. I also feel that, by the way. And when I feel that, actually, that's one of the signs that your body is telling you to relax. So when I feel that, I stop for a bit, but I continue writing. And as I continue writing, I keep myself engaged with the language. So writing is one of my secrets. Writing is one of my secrets, and it motivates me so much. So what are we going to do in Swahili Kingdom next year? In Swahili Kingdom, we are going to have all those 4 things next year. Especially if you are a beginner, this is the time for you to improve your language. If you are starting, I'm going to start with the very basic things. We are going to upload 2 videos a week and 1 short video. Okay, so one video is going to be a full video that has a story at the end. Another video is going to be pure Swahili, a small pure Swahili video of the video that you have, of the format of the long video. Okay, this short video can help you to just listen in Swahili. Okay, if you are a beginner or if you are above your level, you can just listen and see if you can understand something. Then the short video will be just capturing a little thing. Okay, so make sure you follow me on, you can follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, and subscribe to my channel. Okay, and now we are going to do hadithi. Hadithi is a story. So I told you that hadithi, with the hadithi you're going to do a summary of everything that I have talked about. Sasa nitaongea kwa Kiswahili. Nitasema kuhusu vitu vyote ambavyo nimeongea kuhusu. Sasa nimeongea kuhusu kama mimi ningekuwa naanza kusoma lugha nyingine ningefanya nini? Ningeanza kwa, inafaa ujue vitu vinne. Vitu vinne. Kuna kusoma, kuandika, kusikiliza Kuna kusoma, kusikiliza, kuongea na kuandika. Sawa sawa. Sasa kusoma tumesema unaweza soma vitabu ama unaweza soma vitu vya mtu ambaye unamfuata sana katika hizi channel za social media. Kusikiliza unaweza sikiliza vitabu ambavyo unasoma ama unaweza sikiliza pia video za YouTube. Na kuongea unaweza imba nyimbo ambayo umesikia, unaweza fuatilia hiyo nyimbo na uimbe. Kuandika, andika kila siku alafu ufanye hicho kitu kiwe cha kawaida. Uwe unafanya kila siku, kitakupa motisha ya kuendelea na kuendelea. Sawa sawa. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you are going to have a great 2024. I wish you all the best in language learning, and if you have any question about language learning, comment down below, and we are going to see each other in 2024 in the videos that are coming. Make sure you subscribe on my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, and we are going to see each other again. Kwaheri.